but rather tapping from the resources within existing parliamentarians so that as a parliamentarian you contribute to the formation of this process, knowing fully well that you might not be there forever. In this way, Mr. President, I absolutely lend my support to this bill, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Senator Ibrahim Yahya Olurogbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Yahya Olurogbe. I represent Kwara Central. Mr. President, I rise to support this bill. Just like the last speaker said, when I saw the title, I was taken aback. But the content, particularly mentioning the mentorship that is required to deepen governance in this country, is quite important. Not only that, Mr. President, to get elected in this country to the National Assembly of the country require enormous resources, both in terms of material as well as energy that is put to it. Secondly, Mr. President, when you serve the country as a legislator, you put all your energy into it. And the peculiarity of this country makes you to be poorer than when you come in. Also, as we often said, we have to build institutions if we want to build a country to progress. Part of building institutions and part of the method to be able to safeguard individuals from being greedy, from being corrupt, is to be able to know that the institutions will take care of your need. Mr. President, we are aware, as we often said, that the parliamentarians or the parliament is generally misunderstood by the populace and by the public. Despite its importance, most people in the country hate parliamentarians because of envy. They don't look at the executive. We are aware that in the executive side, most top-level executives, either retired permanent secretaries, retired of service, and so on, they still continue to get support even from the government. I'm a member of the public account. I recall when we were considering in the last few weeks funds that are taken from service-wide vote. A huge part of it are used to take care of health and medical need of some of the retired senior executive positions. This does not apply to legislators. And if one knows that when you retire, when you serve, your basic need, even if there's a need, will be taken care of, you'll be more committed to the work and you'll be committed to the country. So that's one part. The second part is that, so that people will understand it clearly, the proposer is not seeking fund from government posts, in which case it is parliamentarians themselves that will look inward. And I think in considering the bill during the committee process, they should look further as to other sources for funds outside government. There are possibilities and ways through which this board and the program can be funded. And I'm sure in future, it will continue to build and strengthen. And I'm sure it will also, as we look at parliamentarians, we can look at the very top senior civil servants that serve the...
You may round up, please.
The institution of parliament will be strong, will be strengthened for the benefit of this country. And the democracy is the country that will benefit from this. So I therefore strongly support our second reading of this bill and its passage. I so support, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, just like those who contributed remarked, this is a very important bill. But let me say that our experience so far is not a good experience. Our colleagues who did not return have always been, most of them, really, most, have always been in difficult situations. Even though the misinformation out there is all the money of Nigeria is in the National Assembly. And yet, the budget of the National Assembly for 2023 is less than 1% of the total federal budget. The fact is, the National Assembly members represent people, they represent Nigerians, and will always be conscious of the fact of the situation, the economic and other social situations in the country. But of course, having put in your best, there should be something, some kind of intervention that will support those that will be in trouble. Even though the bill, I haven't read the bill, but I imagine that there will be some criteria on who benefits. It's not everybody that lives in the National Assembly that may need that kind of support. And but these are fine things that could be the nitty-gritties that could be worked on, but surely there's need for this kind of intervention. And I don't know that, sorry? You have an information. From where? No. This is, you can help the committee. You can help, okay, what is the comparative information?
President, I can feel for you as a presiding officer. We are talking about a former presiding officer. And
No. We are not talking about former, no, please. No. I have to put the record straight. We are not talking about presiding officers.
What I want to say,
No, you have to accept that.
yes, I've accepted that.
Okay.
President, that the issue of parliaments and parliamentarians, I have gone and did a research. I did a thorough research of what the welfare of other parliamentarians all over the globe. In Nigeria here, the press has chosen to misinform. And we have not done our job.
No. Tell us the comparative.
The comparative climbs, like in United Kingdom, where the parliamentarians, once you go, are entitled to pension. It is there in the Act. I have it. I have all those things that parliamentarians are entitled to pension. You know, the same in UK, in US, I mean. So, but in this place, because of the way people have over time built information, they just misinform people, and we are always put on the edge. We're always trying to defend, because the information part of this of National Assembly is not doing enough, never done enough to come back and bring information, call for public hearing, bring all these issues, so that we rest this matter once and for all.
Thank you.
So I'm supporting this. What Stella is what should be done. We are not taking for it. It is what is entitled. Other people are entitled. Other places.
Okay. No, you see, her bill is not even seeking government. It's not even seeking government to do anything. It's what the members of the National Assembly are paid, that they contribute 1%. That is, I think that is the, yes. So it's not even about government. But you see, if we have information like this, that in some climes, in the UK, in the US, and of course we should also look at what is happening in countries like ours, at the stage of development like ours, maybe South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, like that. What prevails there? Is it that we should forego this severance allowance? Because when you live in the National Assembly, when you leave, you are given severance allowance. This severance allowance is nothing to write home about, but there is need for us to really have sufficient information. And I think the National Assembly has always presented the true position of our finances. But of course, some critics of the National Assembly have screwed up their minds that the budget of the National Assembly is 25% of the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is totally untrue. 2023 is about 0.8. That's the budget of the National Assembly, 0.8. Less than 1%. And yet somebody will say, if you want to reform the economy of Nigeria, go and take the National Assembly resources. Less than 1%. And that's very unfair. But of course, we must also be realistic that our economic situation is not good. But that does not stop us going forward to look for something better, not for presiding officers, because this bill is talking about members of the National Assembly. And truly, there are members of the National Assembly that after they left, they were in serious difficulties, financial difficulties. No, please. But in serious difficulties. So this bill is going to be asking for the sacrifice of those that will be serving for those that are outside or those that will be outside, not government. And is it wrong to ask for a government support? If you are giving 1%, why shouldn't government give you, what do you call that, matching grant? Whatever you contribute, government helps you to bring the same amount. Is it wrong? I think we should look at the possibilities and try to be very realistic and practical about it, but this is a very good bill. Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Princess Stella Odwa. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Parliamentary Welfare Program and for related matters 2023, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Parliamentary Welfare Program and for related matters 2023, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters to report back within 1 week. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Public Procurement Act 2007, Amendment Bill 2023, SB 1073. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 22nd November 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Boucher Emmanuel to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time. It's not around. Emmanuel Boucher.
The distinguished Senator Emmanuel Boucher is not here. Is anybody present on his behalf? Okay. The distinguished Senator Kola Balogun, our own Olubada in the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Kola Balogun. I represent Oyo South Senatorial District. I'm from Oyo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, please permit me to lead a debate on the Public Procurement Act 2007, Amendment Bill 2023, SB 1073. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the general principles of the Public Procurement Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2023. You recall that this bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, 22nd November 2022. This bill primarily seeks to address observed lapses to the extant public procurement regulatory landscape since the introduction of the Public Procurement Act about 16 years ago. To this end, the overall objectives of this bill is to broaden the membership of the National Procurement Council to include the Nigerian Institute of Architects, a critical stakeholder in public sector procurement and project implementation, which was inadvertently left out under the Principal Act. On the whole, the passage of this bill will enhance transparency and bring the Nigerian public procurement regulatory landscape at par with current global best practices. In the light of the foregoing, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the amendment proposed by this bill affects sections 16, 16, 35, 44, 49, and 60 of the Principal Act. Thus, while the amendment of Section 1 provides for the inclusion of the Nigerian Institute of Architects in the membership of the National Council on Procurement, the amendment of Section 6 essentially seeks to promote indigenous enterprises and local content in tandem with the Local Content Act and Executive Order Number 5, recently signed by President Muhammad Buhari. Similarly, the amendment of Section 16 of the Principal Act seeks to mandate the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, to collate and gazette all procurement by the federal government MDAs in respect of the preceding year, not later than the 31st of every year, indicating the status of the projects and publishing same on the official websites of the BPP. This will aid legislative oversight of projects, public scrutiny, and minimize incidents of abandoned projects in Nigeria. In the same vein, the amendment to Section 35 seeks to increase the mobilization fees as provided for under the Principal Act from 15% to 30%, and further broadens the practice of mobilization fees to cover project consultants apart from contractors that are ostensibly provided for under the Principal Act. It is expected that this will allow for seamless takeoff of projects and timely implementation. Finally, the amendment proposed to Section 44 seeks to allow for exclusivity to local professionals such as engineers, architects, quantity surveyors, etc., for micro, small, and medium-scale projects in order to develop local capacity, while the amendment proposed to Section 49 provides for a margin of preference to be accorded to domestic consultants and other local contractors in tandem with the Local Content Act and Executive Order Number 5, Section 60 of the Principal Act. It is also amended to provide for the interpretation of the concept of built environment as an emerging concept that is shaping all aspects of man-made environments such as roads, buildings, transportation, which are the core preoccupation of procurement. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in compliance with Order 77, Section 3 of the Senate Standing Order 2015 as amended, I wish to declare that this amendment bill has no additional financial implication on the National Treasury. I therefore urge Mr. President and distinguished colleagues to support the passage of this bill because of its importance to the subject matter of public procurement in Nigeria. Thank you for your kind attention, Mr. President.
The Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, let me commend the sponsor of this bill for bringing it up, even though at this stage in the life of our assembly. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in supporting this bill, I have two areas that I would like to raise some concern about. According to the sponsor of the bill, he says Section 16 of the Principal Act seeks to mandate the Bureau of Public Procurement to collect and gazette all procurement by federal government MDAs in respect of the preceding year, not later than 31st March. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have a very grave concern for this because it is creating another very amorphous kind of bureaucracy in doing so. What I would rather want to see, the information to be made public is key. But I think it's high time we say every MDA should be mandated as a matter of compulsory action to make this information available on their website. And in doing so, of course, they can now provide a link to the Bureau of Public Enterprise to also superintend over that kind of information. But to say it is only the BPP that should do that, honestly, I have a lot of concern with that because you look at the size of government, the MDAs, it's so huge. And I think the BPE, we just continuously, as we are witnessing now, they are creating so much bureaucracy. So I think, to my mind, in looking at this amendment, I agree that yes, such kind of information should be made available. But rather than the BPP, I think we should make it a mandatory provision for the MDAs to make that provision on their website. I think at the age of governance today, it is a misnomer if an MDA is not able to maintain a functional, active, online presence through their website. The second concern, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is, of course, looking at the other provision of Section 44, which seeks to allow exclusivity of local professionals. Here they have limited it to small, medium enterprise. I think the point to be made here is we should allow a stage where professionals from other climes who choose to practice in our country are allowed to have such kind of entry point through this kind of provision, rather than trying to exclude, because bringing people through this kind of provision, we allow interchange and create innovation in the process of service delivery. And Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let's not forget, we are signatories to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. As much as this is in the works, we are in the early stage. I think we must factor what is expected in terms of the free flow of human capital in the course of the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And so, while strengthening our professionals to have an upper hand, I think we should do that by ensuring that other people are not shut out, but are given a process through which they can participate, so long as they meet the criteria that are set in country in terms of our own local standards. With these few comments, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues that it's a very critical bill. And I think the last point is the aspect of maybe the inclusion of these professionals. I remember the last time we debated this, sometimes some 2 years ago, when we were looking at the Public Procurement Act. The issue of wanting to bring in every professional as members of the Public Procurement Council, I think is something we must be careful about, because there is no body of professional. If you go to their area of expertise, if you want to do procurement in that area, the experts are those people who are in that professional area. Even if it is creative industry, arts, for example, all these decorations you see, if you are not a professional there, you are not a professional there. And I think we have to be careful. In the course of procurement, professionals are given room to evaluate and to report the extent of compliance to standard. So I think we shouldn't think it is when you are only on the council that you have any value to add. Maybe you are there to protect your own profession.
Senator Michael.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Michael Nachi. I represent the people of Boy South Senatorial District. Mr. President, for me, this bill, if passed, will create problems for the professional bodies in the procurement industry. 2 years ago, we deliberated on this, and we saw how the issue happened. Procurement Act cannot be narrowed, or carry out any amendment of such nature. You don't narrow one particular profession, say Institute of Architects. If we can recall, we know that every other professional bodies, even Institute of Purchasing and Suppliers, are claiming hold of this very Procurement Act, and other people. So if we are going to do amendment, it should be holistic, so that we shift out the core professionals that will come into the into the Procurement Act bureau. Since 2007, it has been an issue, even within professional bodies. So we cannot narrow this amendment only for architects. Tomorrow, you narrow for engineers. Next tomorrow, the purchasing and supply people are laying key to this. And in every country, the purchasing and supply, it is their department. Others come in, coming from their own professional areas to contribute into this. So if we pass this bill, we are going to create problem under Bureau for Public Procurement. And I'm sure of what I'm saying, because in 2007, the first draft of Procurement Act, I was party to it. Myself, Leto Fore, and Emekeze. And we are still seeing the problem we are having.
So narrowing particular profession into this will not help this country to secure our Procurement Act. And under this thing, we have to get all the professional, the uniqueness of your own idea to participate into this. So, Mr. President, I'm saying that the proponent or the sponsor of this bill should consult widely. He has to consult before bringing this bill. So one profession cannot come and meet him in his office and they are drafting this bill, Mr. President. It cannot help this country, Mr. President. I so submit.
Senator Barrow-Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Barrow-Jibrin, I represent Kano North. Mr. President, permit me to commend the sponsor of this bill, because no matter how beautiful a law is, there must be some lapses in such a law. No matter how intelligent the crafters are, they must have left out something. There must be something that has been left out. And this is exactly what this bill is seeking to do, to correct those mistakes or those things that were not imported into the Public Procurement Act that was enacted in 2007. It's really important to bring in all those professional bodies that are involved in the procurement arrangement. Yes, this bill only talked about the Nigerian Institute of Architects. It's not too late to assuage the feelings of my brother, Senator Nachi. This can be taken care of in the committee stage or in the when it is passed to the committee. So it's not too late. I don't think there is any need to worry here. And the request or the inclusion of increasing mobilization fee from 15% to 30% is a welcome idea. It's something that is good because it will allow the contractor to perform very well in the execution of contracts. The 15% obviously is inadequate. So increasing mobilization fee 30% will further help in contract performance by contractors. So this bill is a very, very good initiative, and it should be supported by all because it will enhance our procurement process. It's highly welcome, and we need to support this bill so that it can be passed. I say something, Mr.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this will be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Public Procurement Act 2007 and for other matters connected there to 2023, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Public Procurement Act 2007 and for other matters connected there to 2023, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Committee on Procurement to report back within 1 week. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of Conference Committee report on the Electricity Bill 2023, SB 511. The distinguished senators will recall that the Senate and the House passed different versions of the Electricity Bill 2023. The Conference Committee of both houses have met and harmonized the differences in accordance with the Senate Standing Order 86. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Soswan Gabriel to move the motion for the Senate to consider the conference report.
Distinguished Senator Gabriel T. Soswan.
Mr. President, Jobre.
Distinguished colleagues, please. You can go to the tea room, please. Okay. You may proceed, please, Senator Suswan.
Yeah, Mr. President, I am Dr. Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to present the Conference Committee report for adoption. Mr. President, report of the Conference Committee.
For consideration, not adoption. Okay. Because when you say adoption, it's conclusive. Whatever it is.
Mr. President, report of the Conference Committee on Electricity Bill 2023 for an act to repeal the Electricity Power Sector Reform Act 2005 and enact the Electricity Act to consolidate the laws relating to the Nigerian electricity supply industry, provide a comprehensive legal and institutional framework for the power sector in Nigeria in the areas of electricity generation, transmission, system operation, distribution, supply, trading, enforcement of consumer rights and obligations, provide for a holistic integrated resource plan and policy that recognizes all sources for the generation, transmission, distribution of electricity, including the integration of renewable energy to the Nigerian energy mix and attract investment and for related matters. Mr. President, I rise to present this report for consideration and adoption.
You see, your motion is to receive and consider the conference committee report. So we need to put the question, but I need a seconder. Senator Geshambasi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Geshambasi, Cross River South. I rise to second the motion moved by Senator Gabriel Suswan. I so second.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the Conference Committee report on the Electricity Bill 2023, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you may lead the conference report, please. You can make the presentation now.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you recall that the Senate at its sitting on Wednesday, 21st July 2022, passed the Electricity Bill 2023, whilst the House passed their own version on 4th April 2023. Subsequently, both houses constituted a 7-member committee each, amounting to a joint committee of 14 members to harmonize the two bills and report back to each house for final passage. Mr. President, the joint committee met yesterday and unanimously agreed on the provisions to be adopted for the both houses, and that was done. The committee members, as you can see on the list, from the Senate, you announced it, myself, Senator Abaribe, Senator Yusuf, Senator Kola Balogun.
That kind of thing, yes. You don't have to read those kind of things so that we...
President. On behalf of members of the Joint Committee, we wish to thank the Senate for the opportunity given us to resolve the areas of differences in this very important bill and recommend for expeditious adoption. Mr. President, I so present.
Any comments? Chairman, what is the recommendation? But where is the recommendation? In your report, there is supposed to be a recommendation that we adopt. But
No, I said that as attached. This is it. This is what we recommended for consideration and passage, Mr. President. There's no any other recommendation. No.
what I'm saying is, you have no prayer here. So we are not going to consider that clause by clause. We are adopting the entire conference report at once, as laid here. So we need a recommendation by the committee that we adopt the conference report. But there's no recommendation here.
Wait, I'm coming. Mr. President, can I make an oral recommendation? I will write it down. So, Mr. President, we adopt your recommendation and then
Well,
the committee recommendation is that, the joint committee recommendation is that the conference report as presented before the Senate be adopted and approved by these hollow chambers. Mr. President.
okay, any comments? Well, if there is no comment, the matter before us is for us to adopt the conference report of our Committee on Power. But Chairman, you still write it there because we need to have, for our records, those in favor that we adopt, the Senate adopts the conference report of the Committee on Power, say aye. Aye. Those against, any that is have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Abdul Abubakar, OON, for appointment as non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Distinguished senators will recall that the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 5th April 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Obasani, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Obasani is not here. Okay, distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar, Kwara North, to represent Senator Obasani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent Kwara North. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Abubakar for appointment as a non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. I so move, Mr. President.
I need a seconder. Oh, okay. Distinguished Senator Yakubu Seni, Kogi Central.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that as submitted by Senator Sadiq Umar for the confirmation of the appointment of Dr. Abdul Abubakar, OON, as non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions on the confirmation of the nomination of Mr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, for appointment as non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. Chairman, you can present the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleague, the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions on the confirmation of the reappointment of Dr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, as non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The Senate, at its sitting on Wednesday, 5th April 2023, considered the request of Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation, Muhammadu Buhari, GFCR, for the confirmation of the reappointment of Dr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, as the non-executive director of the Board of Central Bank of Nigeria, and refers same to the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions for further legislative action. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, the nominee came, attended the screening, interacted with committee members, and it was at the end of the exercise, it was found that his appointment is in accordance with Section 10(3)(a) of the CBN Act 2007, that the nominee possesses the academic qualifications, technical knowledge, and professional experience to be appointed as non-executive director of the Board of CBN, that the committee did not receive any petition against his nomination for reappointment as a non-executive director of the Board of CBN, that the nominee is presently a non-executive director of the Board of CBN, that the nominee is a National Honor Awardee, OON, and that the nominee has been cleared by Nigerian Police Force and possesses the Code of Conduct Acknowledgement Slip. Recommendations. The Committee on Banking, Insurance, and other financial institutions have screened the nominee and been satisfied with his experience, suitability, and academic qualifications, hereby recommends that the Senate do confirm the reappointment of Dr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, as non-executive director of the Board of CBN. Conclusion. The committee wishes to sincerely express its appreciation to the Senate for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole in order to consider the report. I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion as moved by the leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Approval. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, for appointment as non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate. Plenary.
Colleagues, I move that the Senate reverts to plenary for the chair to report progress. So moved.
The minority leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion as moved by the leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverts plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and approved the nomination of Dr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, as non-executive director of the Board of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, for appointment as non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Abdu Abubakar, OON, is hereby confirmed as non-executive director of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Congratulations to him. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons as listed on the order paper for appointment as federal commissioners for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission.
The chairman is not here. Is anybody? Oh, okay.
Distinguished senators will recall that the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 3rd May 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Adetunbi Olubunmi Ayodeji, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Adetunbi will be represented by very distinguished Senator Gershom Stephen Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gershom Bassi, Cross River South, representing the chairman of the Committee on National Planning. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the reports of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the confirmation of the nominations of the following persons for appointment as federal commissioners for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. Number 1, Senator Ayogu Eze, CON. Number 2, Peter Okpara. Number 3, Hawa Umar Aliu. Number 4, Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna. Number 5, Ismail Mohammed Agaka. Number 6, Kolawole Daniel Abimbola. I so move.
I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, Jigawa Northeast, my neighbor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ibrahim Hassan Adeja, Jigawa Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Chairman of the Senate Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs to receive the report of the Senate Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the screening of nominees as federal commissioners for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion, minority please. Those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the confirmation of the nominations of the persons mentioned below for appointment as federal commissioners for Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. You may present the report now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate at its plenary sitting on Wednesday, 4th May 2023, considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation, for the confirmation of nominees for appointment as federal commissioners of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission, and referred same to the committee for further legislative action. I will go straight to the findings, Mr. President. Findings. From the documents presented to the committee, the nominees satisfied the requirements for appointment as federal commissioners, Federal Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. 2, the committees were very well experienced and adequately exposed in public service and have acquired capacity to function as federal commissioners, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. 3, there were no objections raised from the senators representing their respective states. 4, the nominees are proper and fit to occupy the offices as federal commissioners in the commission. Recommendation. Based on the findings, the committee is convinced of the suitability of the nominees for appointment and hereby recommend as follows: that the Senate do confirm the nomination of the underlisted nominees as federal commissioners, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission. 1, Senator Ayogu Eze, CON. 2, Peter Okpara. 3, Hawa Umar Aliu. 4, Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna. 5, Ismail Mohammed Agaka. 6, Kolade Daniel Abimbola. In conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the committee, I wish to most sincerely thank you for the opportunity to serve in this regard. I so move.
Any comments? Yes, former comrade, distinguished Senator Smart Ademi.
To commend the federal government, indeed the president, for the appointment of one of us, whom you know very well.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much for reminding me.
And including yourself, when you were in the serious opposition party that time, you gave us a lot of headache. Myself, I always plan.
Purpose of this is to say I gave you a lot of headache. Well, since you have decided to speak along that line, I think there should be full disclosure. No. Senator, by the way, Senator Ayogu Eze in the 7th Senate had as his co-presidential warlords in the chamber Senator Smata Adeyemi, Senator Abaribe, Senator Emmanuel Polka, Senator Heneken Lokpobri. No, John Sonaja was not there. Those people, you will not mention Villa and you will not mention President Goodluck Jonathan. They will skin people alive. No, you have said it. Well, Ayogu Eze deserves to be given the appointment. Having seen the light, and of course joined the APC, even though we are very, very magnanimous, even appointing PDP elements to show that we can actually work for the unity of the nation. Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor, leader, we'll go to the committee of the whole, please.
The committee resolved into committee of the whole to consider the...
Leader, you are doing a very good job. And I can see Senator Alero is beside you. I'm happy to see you putting heads together. The minority leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now resolve into committee of the whole to consider this report.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate resolves into committee of the whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Please close the door, Sergeant at Arms. Who are those people at the corner there? Who are those people? Huh? Our aide? No, please stay outside. We're secured here. Clerk. Approval. At the conclusion, will the Senate approve the nomination of Senator Ayogu Eze? Senator Ayogu Eze once represented Enugu North, where our minority whip is coming from now. Representing Enugu State as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Peter Opara, representing Imo State as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Hawa Umar Aliyu, representing Jigawa State as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna, representing Kebbi State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Ismail Mohammed Agaka, representing Kwara State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will the Senate approve the nomination of Kwalade Daniel Abimbola, representing Oyo State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate revert to plenary for the chair to report progress.
The minority leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now revert to plenary to report progress as so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverts to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs on the screening of Mr. President's nominees for appointment as Federal Commissioners for Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, and approved the nominations of Senator Ayogueze, CON, Enugu State, Federal Commissioner, Peter Opara, Imo State, Federal Commissioner, Hawa Umar Aliyu, Jigawa State, Federal Commissioner, Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna, Kebbi State, Federal Commissioner, Ismaila Mohammed Agaka, Kwara State, Federal Commissioner, and Kolade Daniel Abimbola, Oyo State, Federal Commissioner. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Yes. Thank you. Confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Senator Ayogueze, CON, representing Enugu State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Senator Ayogueze, CON, representing Enugu State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Peter Opara, representing Imo State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Peter Opara, representing Imo State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Hawa Umar Aliyu, representing Jigawa State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Hawa Umar Aliyu, representing Jigawa State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna, representing Kebbi State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Hawa Umar Aliyu, is it? The nomination of Hawa Umar Aliyu, representing Jigawa State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna? I think I'm repeating that. Yes. Rekia Tanko Ayuba Haruna, representing Kebbi State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Rakia Tanko Ayuba Haruna representing Kebbi State is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Ismaila Agaka, Mohammed Agaka, representing Kwara State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Ismail Mohammed Agaka, representing Kwara State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Kolade not Kolawole, it's Kolade. Kolade Daniel Abimbola, representing Oyo State, as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. What is written is Kolade, but what was conveyed to us was Kolade. It was the mistake of the Secretariat. Will the Senate, the nomination of Kolade Daniel Abimbola, representing Oyo State, is hereby confirmed as Federal Commissioner for the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Well, congratulations to all of them, and we pray and hope that they would have very fruitful, peaceful tenures as they discharge their duties. Leader of the Senate.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the adoption of the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the annual report of the Auditor General for the Federation.
Who is going to present it, because the chairman is not here? So please stop this. You are the one to present it? No, we are not asking you. If the chairman did not say you should, I don't think we should do it. Hey, please stop distributing those. Please. The minority leader, second the motion.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this item be stepped down on the other paper. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the eighth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, SULEJA, Establishment Bill 2023, SB 931. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, 16th February 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Gaidan Ibrahim Alaji, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
He's here, look, he's talking with him.
Where?
He's here, he's talking with him. Senator Gaidan.
Oh, okay. No, he's there. He's talking with him.
Look at him talking.
He's there. He's talking with the SP. Huh? Then who are you to announce that? Huh?
Deputy Chairman, Public Assembly.
Today is the first day that I work. No problem. We are together.
Look at the eyes of Corona. When did you even change this color?
Did
Good
you
afternoon,
drop
sir.
for this?
Okay, I will drop.
Okay, so you reverse yourself. Since the vice chairman of the committee on public accounts is here, we can take the report. Chairman, present the distinguished Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, Jigawa Northeast. Mr. Chairman, I rise to move that the Senate do adopt the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the annual reports of the Auditor General for the Federation on the accounts of the Federation for the year ended 31st December 2017 and 31st December 2018. I so move, Mr. President.
I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Suleiman Abdul Kwari, Kaduna North.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I second the motion as ably moved by distinguished Senator Ibrahim Hadeja on behalf of the Chairman, Public Accounts Committee. I so move second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do adopt the report. Did we receive it before? Did we receive this report before? Then it should be receive and adopt or consider. Yes, if we didn't receive it, we have to receive it first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the report be received and adopted. That is the report for 2017 and 2018.
You may need to do the seconding again, like he did the moving of the motion. Senator Akwali.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I say second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and adopt the report of the committee or consider the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the annual reports of the Auditor General for the Federation and the accounts of the Federation for the year ended 31st December 2017 and 2018. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you may lead the reports. Yeah, you can present the report now.
Much, Mr. President. Mr. President, the 2017 Auditor General for the Federation report, together with the 2016 and 2018 reports, were considered simultaneously by the committee to enable it clear the backlog of reports already submitted by the Auditor General.
Chairman, I can see 3 reports here, even 4. Oh, these are summaries? Okay, these are summaries. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. The details of the 3 reports were laid at plenary on 1st March 2023 and have seen the committee's recommendations on the 2016 report already considered by the Senate. In their under review, the Auditor General queried 100 MDAs, and the committee accordingly invited all the concerned MDAs. 73 MDAs submitted written responses to the committee and subsequently appeared at the committee's public hearing to defend their submissions. 23 MDAs sent in written responses but did not appear before the committee. A total of 4 MDAs neither responded to the committee's correspondences nor appeared before it. The queries of 21 MDAs were sustained, while that of 52 were vacated. The MDAs that made written responses to the committee but failed to appear to defend their submissions, and those MDAs that neither made written responses nor appeared before the committee's public hearings. After repeated correspondence on the matter under reference, the committee adopted the recommendations of the Auditor General as it affects the queries raised against them. Similar to the 2016 report, the 2017 and 2018 detailed report captured the sustained queries, response of the MDAs, the observations of the committee, and its recommendations on same. It also contains the list of all MDAs queried and those whose queries were cleared and vacated by the committee. Mr. President, that is a general summary of the two reports for 2017 and 2018. We had already earlier submitted the report for 2015, making now a total of 4 reports that the Public Accounts Committee has processed and submitted to the Senate. These reports, Mr. President, totaled almost 3,946 pages. We have received the 2019 report from the Auditor General, but we received it not too long ago. And sadly, we may not be in a position to complete that process before the end of this legislative term. So I think we'll leave that for the 10th Senate. Mr. President, we thank you very much as a committee for the support you have given to the Public Accounts Committee, without which I doubt if we would have taken on and completed this very onerous responsibility. I also wish to thank all our members who painstakingly made their time available Monday to Friday to see that we sit down with these MDAs and submit the reports. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. You have presented the two reports, 2017 and 2018. Distinguished colleagues, we have listened to the chairman of the Committee on Public Accounts, the vice chairman, of course, representing the chairman and members of the committee. Is there any comments on the reports? And let me say that the Public Accounts Committee is the only committee of the National Assembly that is clearly and specifically mentioned in the Constitution of our country. And this is the only committee, as far as I can remember, that has financial provisions in the budget. And they do thorough work. And what we hope and pray for is that the executive will look into these resolutions and then work to ensure implementation. We have taken a bill sponsored, I think, by the people, the members of the Public Accounts Committee or their chairman, on the process of how the executive should treat the reports of the Public Accounts Committees as considered and adopted by the National Assembly chambers. And that is to say that they must be implemented. There must be actions if the fight against corruption will succeed. We should expedite action to pass the bill, and I'm sure the House will concur, and I'm also sure that Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari would like to have this bill assented to as part of his legacy in the fight against corruption, which is one of the major 3 pillars that our party, our government, campaigned and worked for. So we should work hard. I don't know at what stage, Mr. Chairman, the bill, because it was referred to our committee. What is the status of the bill now? Are you about to bring, we did the second reading. Are we expecting it next week?
Yeah, it's by next week, sir.
Let's have it next week so that we can pass it and then the House concurs and then we send it immediately to Mr. President for his assent. It should be one of the landmark legislative interventions by the National Assembly, and of course, we'll be proud of that once we do it. So if there are no comments, I move the motion, and I'll put the question for the adoption of the reports of the 2017 Auditor General's report as presented to us by the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. So the 2 reports have been adopted and they will be sent to the executive arm of government for implementation of the resolutions there. I think the National Assembly, especially the 10th National Assembly, I should take the opportunity to mention here. The 10th National Assembly will have, or I would suggest, should look at section, is it 81 or 82? 88, sorry, 88, where the parliament is only reduced into exposing corruption, waste, and inefficiencies in government. And that is where it stops. And that is not enough. Because all the time we expose waste, corruption, and inefficiencies, and yet nothing happens. No consequence, no sanctions. It is very, very important that if Nigeria would have to succeed in the fight against corruption, what the National Assembly unearths, brings out and reveals should be treated very seriously, and therefore we should consider amending that section of the Constitution, in the alteration of the Constitution in the 10th Senate and the 10th National Assembly, to see how we can make those transgressions exposed will now be sanctioned. How do we do that? I think we need to think about it, because most of the time, the public doesn't even understand that we don't have the power to sanction anybody. We can only recommend. And when you recommend for sanctioning, the sanctioning is supposed to be done by the executive arm of government. So there should be a way to make it difficult to just jettison the reports of resolutions from the National Assembly, particularly as it affects funds of government. Because this is very, very important. And I believe that the next administration and the rest of us in the National Assembly will work towards ensuring that we fight against corruption and inefficiencies in governance. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the eighth order of the day is the consideration of a report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, SULEJA, Establishment Bill 2023, SB 931. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Wednesday, 16th February 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Gaidam Ibrahim Alaji, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the consideration of the report.
Oshun, congratulations. Distinguished Senator, okay, I think the Vice Chairman is presenting. Are you? Okay. It's supposed to be Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, the Chairman, who will be represented by the Vice Chairman, Senator Okoye Ekinyi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Akoneyanyi, representing Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District, the Vice Chairman of the Senate Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary. I rise by the leave of my Chairman, distinguished Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, to move that the Senate do receive and consider the bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and other matters connected therewith. Ondo City, Ondo State, I so move.
Distinguished Senator Princess Stella Adeze Odua, Anambra North.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, I rise to second that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary on National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, Bill 2023 SB 931. I so submit.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do, is it receive and consider or consider? Secretary, what's the problem? that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary on the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration Bill 2023 SB 931. Say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. You may present the report now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senate at its sitting on Tuesday, 15 February 2022, considered and read the second time a bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and other related matters connected therewith, 2022, sponsored by Senator Akunye Lure, and referred same to the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary for further legislative action. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the committee met and interacted with various stakeholders listed on page 2, and the following observations were made. 1. The bill, which seeks to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and provide legal framework for its functions and other matters relating to educational planning and administration, capacity building, workshops, seminars, and conferences for education planners and administrators in Nigeria, has 28 clauses. The institute, which was established by the federal government in 1992 as an agency under the Federal Ministry of Education and located in Ondo State, has been in existence and operating since then without an enabling law. 3, most of the stakeholders supported the enactment of enabling law for the establishment of the institute and to strengthen its functions and operations with certain alterations to the bill, such as that 4:4, retain the location of the institute since its existence as against the mutation of the present Director General of the institute, that it be moved to the FCT. Expand the membership of the Governing Council in Clause 3 to include representatives from the relevant bodies such as the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, Nigerian Teachers Institute, and Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council. Reduce the tenure of office of the chairman and members of the council in Clause 4 to a single term of 4 years only. Introduce new Clause 7B and renumber accordingly. 8, delete Clause 8A under the functions and powers of the Institute, which suggests that the Institute operates as an inter-university and a degree/diploma awarding institute outside its core mandate. to bring clause 11 in line with the general provisions of law in the appointment of directors and other staff of the institute, and insertion of new clause 12 to make provision for the powers and functions of the principal officers of the institute, and deletion of old clause 12 to be in tandem with the mandate of the institute. The committee recommends thus. The committee thoroughly, after considering the various submissions, presentations, observations, and comments by critical stakeholders, and indeed the general public, on the provisions of the bill, made amendments when necessary, recommends and moves that Senate do consider recommends that the Senate do consider the recommendations as contained in the attached bill from the report. I so submit. Thank you.
Any comments? The Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I want to commend the committee for bringing up this bill. I just thought I should place on record, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that this bill is actually a bill that emanated from the magnanimity of this chamber when the crisis having to do with the leadership of that institute was brought forward to this chamber. Distinguished Senator Akinyolure will recall that. And I think when this issue came out very clearly, it was one of the resolution that a bill should come out to regularize and ensure that that institute is strengthened to play its core mandate. I thought we should place this on record because this chamber had graciously done so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider the report. I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider this report.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chief, what's happening? then you have to be very watchful. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, clause 7, stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes 7, and the ayes have it. No, I said 8, but I went back to 7. So that I will start with the 8. Clause 8. Yes. Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My observation on clause 8, which begins at page, is it 6? Yes, my observation is at page 8, which is, yes, it's the same clause, actually, that's why. It's the same clause. Clause 1, Roman figure 7. In this particular provision, in the Principal Act, it says enhancing quality managers and administrators at all levels of education to postgraduate diploma in educational leadership. And they said, no, that should be removed. I thought otherwise, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, because educational leadership is something circumscribed to the educational sector. No regular university will run any course to enhance the knowledge of operators in the educational sector with respect to this. And so I felt this is more circumscribed to the educational sector. It is specific, and I think the institute should be allowed to encourage people at all levels to have some knowledge on this educational leadership. I think it is in order, and we should please retain it.
Let me ask the chair there. Which institution teaches educational leadership?
Mr. President, the redrafting, what we did here, still takes care. The institute will do it. The bill permits the institute to do it because it says enhancing quality managers and administrators at all levels. That all levels of education covers the postgraduate diploma that he's emphasizing.
So this postgraduate diploma, where is it taught? In which institutions?
It was originally taught there. It was a course, a program. That's what they were doing. That's why we had to delay. Mr. President, this institution is a planning institution. Mm-hmm.
Enhancing quality managers and administrators at all levels of education, at all levels. My understanding is, if postgraduate diploma in educational leadership is taught in any of the levels, then you are okay with this recommendation. But if it is not taught by any of the levels, but it's taught, I don't know, by one institute or something, then it means we have to leave it as provided for.
Thank you, Mr. President. From my understanding, educational administrators, or what you call leaders, are taught and formed. Well, there's a difference between teaching and training. In this case, when we talk of administrators, they are formed or taught in the Institute of Education. We have what we call Institute of Education. And then PGDE, Postgraduate Diploma in Education, is also taught in
I'm coming under Order 8, subsection 3, and I'm moving that the Senate sits beyond 2 p.m. I so move. Mr. Officer.
Yes, it's better. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do revert to plenary to report progress. I so said. Oh. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having looked at the time, it is 1:45. I want to second the motion that this Senate do now sit beyond 2 p.m. Second the motion that. Why have I been harassed this afternoon? I second the motion ably moved by the Senate leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I was saying, to make a clear distinction between administrators and what we refer to leaders. The administrators are formed or trained in the Institute of Education. Now, the Institute of Education is solely responsible for training and forming administrators. Now, diploma in education, that is postgraduate diploma in education. Now, this is a certificate that also is conferred by the Institute of Education and recently by the colleges of education. Now, colleges of education, they are, let me say, the brains behind the formation of administrators. Correct. Well, yes, we can do that. We can say that because the institute, yes, enhance the Institute of Education is solely responsible for this.
Sir, with due respect to my colleagues that have spoken earlier, the issue of educational leadership, honestly, is something that has been neglected, to say the truth. And while what she said is PGD in education, postgraduate diploma in education, like you know, other people who do not go through the education line and you are lecturers in the university, Immediately you come in as a graduate assistant, one of the criteria is that you should go and get PGD in education. That one is to enable you have the principles of education for the kind of job you want to be doing. And then the issue of administrators, of course, the Institute of Education she talked about, yes. But the issue here is educational leadership, because it entails so many things which is being ignored. Principals, headmasters, and other people who are running the educational. I'm recommending what is in the Principal Act should be left like that. That's my own recommendation.
The problem, Mr. President, is if the institution will have the capacity to do this particular level of training. That's where the problem is.
Let me explain what the question will be and what each of the responses will mean. I will put the question on what the committee recommended. That is enhancing, and including, or maybe let me isolate 8, well, let's vote on this, then we take the entire 8. So if I put the question to be on enhancing 7, Roman figure will be enhancing quality managers, please, enhancing quality managers and administrators at all levels of education. This is what the committee has recommended. The original provision is enhancing quality managers and administrators at all levels of education to postgraduate diploma in educational leadership. So if we vote yes, it means what the committee has recommended has passed. If you want what is in the original bill or the act, you will vote against what the committee is asking us to accept. Is that clear? So those in favor of 8.1 Roman figure 7 as presented by the committee, say aye. You are in a hurry. Those in favor of the recommendation of the committee, say aye. This thing's in trouble. Those against, say nay. The nays have it. So those in favor that clause 8, clause 9, clause 10, clause 11, clause 12, clause 13, clause 14, clause 15, clause 16, clause 17, clause 18, clause 19, clause 20 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 21 is on page 20. Those in favor of clause 21, clause 22 annual report, clause 23 legal proceedings, clause 24, clause 25, and clause 26 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the interpretation on page 24 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the schedules 1 and 2 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate plenary.
President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate revert to plenary for chair to report progress. So moved.
so that I'll be, so that I'll be able to say the appropriate. I'll be able to say the appropriate thing. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those who on the motion say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, Establishment Bill 2023, and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, Clause 1 to 7 as recommended, Clause 8 as amended, Clause 9 to 26 as recommended, Interpretation as recommended, Short title as recommended, Schedules 1 and 2 as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Leader of the Senate, third reading.
President, distinguished colleagues, I move that this bill be now read the third time. I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this bill be now read a third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and other matters connected there with 2023, third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and other matters connected there with 2023, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC Act, Amendment Bill 2023 SB 1064. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 13th December 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Kwari S. Abdu, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Thank you, Leader. Distinguished Senator Suleiman Abdu Kwari, Kaduna North.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Suleiman Abdu Kwari, Kaduna North. I rise to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act, Amendment Bill 2023. I so move.
I need a seconder. Very distinguished Senator, our elder, Sarkin Bai of Katagum, Senator Adamu Mohammed Bulkachua, representing Bauchi North.
Thank you, Mr. President, for inviting me to second this very important motion moved by the chairman, Suleiman Abdukwari, of Kaduna State Chairman of the EFCC committee. I so second, Mr.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC Act, Amendment Bill 2023, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report, Chairman. Senator Smart Ademi, this your chair is looking like you are facing an opposite direction. You present the report, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. This is the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the Act to amend the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act 2004 to subject the suspension or termination of the appointment of the executive chairman of the commission to the confirmation of the two-thirds majority of the Senate of the National Assembly in order to guarantee the security of tenure of the office of the executive chairman for the optimal performance of the functions of the office and to restrict the appointment of the executive chairman of the commission to only the commission's serving investigation officers that have attained the rank of deputy commander of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and for related matters 2023, SB 1064. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate on the 13th December 2022 debated on the general principles of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2004 Amendment Bill and referred same to the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes for further legislative action. The bill was sponsored by very distinguished Senator Chukwuka Utazi, Enugu North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objectives of the bill is there stated in pages 1 and 2, and the process or methodology employed by the committee to arrive at its conclusion is also on some page. Public hearing was conducted on 4th April 2023, and the highlights of the presentations made at the public hearing are captured on pages 2 and 3. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the observations and findings of the committee, having reviewed the submissions from stakeholders during the public hearing, were in support of the passage of the 2 amendments proposed in the bill in order to make the agency a more professional institution. The committee, in its review of submissions, however, came to the conclusion that the executive chairman shall be appointed from amongst investigation officers that have attained the rank of Deputy Commander of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. It was also observed that regarding other anti-corruption agencies like ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau, the National Assembly ensured during the crafting of their laws that the headship had security of tenure by ensuring that their appointment and removal, as the case may be, were subjected to confirmation of the Senate. Section 3 sub C 6, 8 of the ICPC Act and the Code of Conduct Bureau are referred herein. Recommendations of the committee, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is that the committee, that the Senate do consider and pass the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2004 Amendment Bill 2023 as contained in the recommendations. And our conclusion, Mr. President, is to thank this august Senate that with gratitude of the committee for the opportunity offered the committee to serve. Thank you, sir.
Well, this is not second reading, but my head spins. What this, it's not second reading, so it's not going to be debated. I only raise a concern. Suppose somebody worked somewhere in an anti-corruption agency and rose to the rank that will qualify or will be equivalent to that we are talking about in the EFCC, that will qualify him to be chairman. With all the experience he gathered about fighting corruption, he can't be appointed. Only people inside EFCC. Is that the point? So we are not debating the content because it's second reading. I'm just thinking that people from outside may bring fresh ideas, but we have finished that. We are past that stage. Only to take clause by clause. So if anybody has any argument, it's when we come to a clause. If you want to amend anything, it's not at this point. Even me, maybe I abuse my position to raise the issue, but honestly, I'm thinking maybe it's too tight. If there are no comments, Leader of the Senate, we'll go to the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider the report.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate revert and do go into Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against, any ayes have it. Okay, it's off now. Clause 1. Okay, Senator Adiola Solomon Olamileko, Lagos West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very distinguished colleague. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to raise this very salient issue. Mr. Chairman, I look at the original provision in the bill. The original provision is very simple, that determination of the appointment of the chairman of the commission to be subject to the confirmation of the National Assembly, Senate of National Assembly, in order to guarantee the security of tenure of office of chairman for the optimal performances of the function of the office. But coming back to the recommendation, 2/3 majority of the Senate. Mr. Chairman, I feel it should be a simple majority of the Senate. This is not a constitutional office. It's an office that is as an enactment of the law of the National Assembly. When you now put 2/3, what you are telling us is we must get 2/3 of the senator to remove the office of the chairman of the EFCC. It should be a simple majority. It should be a simple majority. It's as simple as that. When you put it 2/3, that means even to remove a Senate president or the speaker or the president, that would, why? Are we equivalent or putting it side by side? And this is a constitutional office. This is a law that is an enactment of the National Assembly. It should be a simple majority. Yes.
Ademi.
Mr. President, I rise to support the amendment as presented by Senator Olamilekon. Even in the appointment of a cabinet minister, a simple majority. So I do not see a reason why we should lay emphasis on 2/3 in the case of the chairman of the EFCC, whom, to my understanding, is not a full-fledged ministry of the government. So I want to submit that simple majority should be more than enough.
That one is the long title on the first page. Clause 1 is on page 2. Clause 1 is on page 2. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act of 2004 in the bill referred to as the principal blah blah. So that's clause 1. I don't think you have any issue with that. It's when we come to the long title. Okay. Those in favor that clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2. Clause 2. Senator Adiola Solomon Olamilekon.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, for giving me another opportunity to speak on. Mr. Chairman, if you look at the current provision as it were, it said, be a serving member of the commission, not below the rank of Assistant Commander of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I will want the chairman to explain further, while they are emphasizing that must be a serving investigation officer and not below the rank of a deputy commander of the Economic Financial Commission. And the reason why I'm saying this is, Mr. Chairman, why emphasis on investigating officer? Are you saying that any officer of that commission who does not belong to the investigation department cannot rise to the position of chairman of EFCC? There must be a reason. There must be a reason. Because even if you talk about professionalism, Mr. Chairman, they undergo the same training. They are subjected to the same training, and they are posted to different officers. So why emphasis on he must be an investigation officer? So yes, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my friend Senator Olamilekon for this inquiry. The essence of asking that the people should be investigating officers is that if you enter if you are recruited and you undergo training, there are short training for people who will just do about 3 months and they get into the field. But these investigating officers, another kind of graduates that they put and train, they do almost 1 year training. They are specially trained. So if you just ask that those people who come for 3 year training, if you say it's for 3 months, those ones are this, it means that it's going to, so that's the essence.
I want to jump into this this field of arguments. The former Senate leader will speak after I speak because he raised his hand earlier. The chairman, the office of the executive chairman, it's an appointment. It's a political appointment. It's not a career appointment. That's my understanding. He's supposed to manage everybody. Just hold on. Yes. It's not like, okay.
Explanation I want to make, Mr. Chairman, this issue came during the public hearing, and Yusuf was there. He raised a lot of issues. He raised the question. You are explaining. The address to this issue is that the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, corruption, is the authority from which all the state parties to the convention derive their force, domesticate this law in their own area. So, and they gave the standard of what they want in such areas. You remember in it, yes, then this is for professionalism, they want people, so that people who can understand, you don't just bring people, the sensitivity of the job you are doing. It does not train that you bring people who are not properly skilled in that area to handle. And tomorrow it will lead to miscarriage of justice. Many people will not understand the issues. So these things are tailored. And this is standard established all over by state parties. And if you take it, you come back home, domesticate it, you follow it strictly said so. You don't come back here and say you move away from this or that. You know, and okay.
Mike, please. I'm coming to the former leader. Someone works in the EFCC for all his life. How can you say he shouldn't head it because he doesn't belong to this former leader?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have similar views with those of the President of the Senate. And I think also that we should try as much as possible to guard against inbreeding. By inbreeding, I mean restriction of coming in and entry across institutions, particularly institutions that have similar mandates. I think restricting the leadership only to those within that institution. Not everyone. You know, and even within that institution, not everyone. I think is very injurious. Very injurious to the future of that institution. For me, Mr. Chairman, I respectively wish to amend this particular section, subsection 2, to read, or having attained the same rank in a related institution recognized by the law. Because it opens up the institution for coming in and coming out. Otherwise, if we restrict the leadership of the institution only to a special cadre, you know, for example, let me give you an example. Before, in the Federal Civil Service, there is no way in which somebody who is an accountant or a medical officer or somebody in the other professional cadre can be a permanent secretary. Only people who are in the administrative cadre can be permanent secretaries. It was found to be very injurious. So we had to amend the Federal Civil Service law to make permanent secretaryship open to every officer. You know, whether you are a medical officer, whether you are in the health cadre, whether you are in engineering cadre, whether you are an accountant, if you attain the rank of a director with experience, sufficient experience in civil service, you can become a permanent secretary of that. Now, to come back again to restrict this kind of this institution, I think it's very injurious to the institution because it cuts off the fertilization of ideas across related services. Therefore, I am sincerely of the view, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, that these two issues, the one raised by Senator Olamilekan, and also the restriction of the leadership to only those within the EFCC are injurious, and I think they should be amended. It's appropriate. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree partially with what the former leader said. Partially in the sense that I agree with the non-restriction of those who are within the service. But where I disagree is talking about sister organizations. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, it is not possible for you, no matter how brilliant an investigating or other cadre officer of the EFCC is, it's not possible for you to remove him and take him to civil defense to become a commandant. It's not possible. The same way it's not possible for you to carry him to the Nigerian police. Now, my argument here is that if you want people to perform optimally, given the nature of the work they are doing, it is good that you allow that out of all of them that are there, anybody who is within the system who is capable and competent, he should come in. Mr. Chairman, if you look at, for example, the university, simply because you've been working in the university, you have more experience, they will not allow you to come and be the vice chancellor. So I think it's a matter of career choice. And I've seen situations where this opening is injurious to the people who are working, who have given the whole of their life to that system. Just when they thought, oh, I will be, you go and bring somebody from outside and killing the morale. So I think, but within, I agree with, that's why I say partially, that it should not be restricted just to the investigative cadre. Because all of them in the first instance, based on what I know happening now, they are all coming in as EFCC officers, and they go in to gain different kinds of experience within the service. So I think these are my own thoughts.
Mr. President, Michael Okpayemi Bamidele representing Ekiti Central. Historically, sir, part of the reason that even led to the creation of the EFCC, ICPC, and similarly situated anti-graft organizations was because the country was not getting enough from the Nigerian police force. Every one of these agencies had a department, well, just a department within the Nigerian police. So part of why majority of the members of this Red Chamber supported the appointment of Mr. Bauer was we felt it was the right thing to do, taking somebody from within the service. But Mr. President, sitting as chair, I have issues with the idea of requiring 2/3 of the membership of this hallowed chamber to remove the chairman of EFCC. He's not the president of Nigeria. If we have a simple majority of distinguished senators saying, we need something better than what we are getting, that should be enough. But I'm totally in support of the idea that to ensure career progression, to ensure professionalism, and to be consistent with global best practices, it's important that we restrict it within the organization itself so that people can look forward, to getting to that point. Thank you, Mr. President.
My submission is that in the EFCC, you have so many departments. If you are not in the mainstream of investigation, you may not be knowledgeable in the act of investigation. The society is dynamic, so also crime. Now, all these agencies that are investigating corruption, money laundering, they are updated on almost on a quarterly or periodically of the dynamism, the new discoveries of crime being committed. Now, if you decide to appoint somebody who is not in the mainstream of investigation, because it's a staff of the EFCC, to come and head an organization whose primary purpose is to expose crime, corruption issues, it's going to be a problem. So for me, I want to submit, Mr. President, that those who are not in the core investigation of EFCC cannot be asked to come and head the EFCC. You should look for somebody who is abreast and who is knowledgeable and who is well trained in the art of investigation.
Question. Is it possible for the investigative officers to function without the other people? Okay. So Nataisu is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we should be very, very careful in not killing what I call professionalism. You see, we should not adopt what we call Peter principle, promoting somebody to his level of incompetence. What is happening, we confirm Bawa because he was an operative. He was not coming from admin, he was not coming from accounts, he was not coming from other areas. For you to know explicitly how to run, he cannot run alone, certainly, but the international requirement, when they go, Nigeria is in a global village. He is going to compete with other people, you know, or he's going to last, or he's going to stay with other people to discuss these issues. If he is not from the investigative, he will not know the extent to which this thing can be done. We are not saying that, you know, once you work in the admin throughout, and therefore you become the chairman of EFCC. I think there will be something missing. Likewise, if you are in admin. But if you are in the investigative, from day one, you know the rigmarole, you know all these issues connected to fighting crimes. And also you can meet very, very well with international, you know, community counterparts. Thank you very much. It will add up. It will add up. Adeola.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oji Carlo from Abia North. I think what we're arguing of using only investigative officers and being the chairman of EFCC cannot be doable in an organization like EFCC. You have operations, you have investigation, you have administration, you have other departments of this place. You have to give opportunity to everybody, because when you become the chairman, you are manager of people. You are no longer manager of investigation. Because there will be head of investigation who will advise you in making decisions. There will be head of operation who will advise you in making decisions. There will be head of administration who will also advise you in making decisions. So you are no longer manager of investigation department. So I think in the 21st century, people should not be thinking that you must put an investigator to be chairman or this and that. You should be a core staff of EFCC. And that can carry, because you are already a chief executive. You must be vast. Your administration is not going to be only in investigation or in operation. You are now a leader of the drivers, the porters, the investigators, everybody. You are the leader of the place. So I recommend that we should make it open, Mr. President, if we should apply. I'm not finished, Mr. President. If we should apply what happens everywhere in the world. In America, they do not allow national security advisor to be a military man. In anywhere you go, they allow people who are in security. Whether you are a minister of this or that, you can be a national security advisor. You can be director of FBI, CIA, once you are in that system, not because you are in investigation. So you see the operatives of CIA, they take partially the staff. No director of CIA that's in charge of investigation cannot be director general of the organization. So I plead with this House, let us not make a law. The former leader of the Senate, just giving the example in the ministries, where you have permanent secretaries. Before they used to, it's just like in the army. They used to say, unless you are an artillery or infantryman before you become chief of army staff. All those things are going away because the chiefs are managers of men and materials. I so submit, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Engineer Kabir Barkia. Mr. President, issue of the EFCC chairman, we all agree that it's a political appointment. So, of course, we cannot restrict political appointment to say it has to be within. It's possible you get somebody better outside than within the commission. For example, now, if we look at the DSS, NIA. People who work there also, they can work in the, as a chairman of the EFCC. So I think there's no need to restrict it, that we have to definitely bring from inside. I think the only thing is, of course, we always try and put a round peg in a round hole. So that somebody who is, of course, we know he's capable and professionally wise, that he can handle. But if we restrict it, at the end of the day, maybe when they know, yes, somebody has to, chairman of the EFCC has to come from, then it means there's no, check and balance. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, sitting as chair. My name is Adamu Mohammed Bulkachua, representing Bauchi North Senatorial District. I think what we are arguing is something that we should look first and foremost. What is the function or schedule of duty of the chairman of EFCC? Is he going to be alone in the field investigating? He is simply the manager. The investigation department, the other departments are his tools. He can use them. So anybody within the EFCC, indeed even within related services, can function effectively and professionally as chairman of EFCC. Mr. Chairman, initially, they bring chairmen from the police because police are professionals in investigating. But they bring other people, other personnel from the police that may not be in the investigation department. And they have functioned. And they have functioned very well. So somebody who is in the investigation department of ICPC or in the police or in other crime prevention agencies can very well function if he is a good manager of people and resource. Because the whole department, EFCC, is his raw material. He can use them and he can function very well. So I think we shouldn't restrict it to investigation department or indeed only within the EFCC. You could find good materials outside the EFCC. Thank you, Mr. President.
Before I put the question, let me seek for those who want an amendment, because those who argued that it shouldn't be 2/3 of senators before the EFCC chairman is removed, there's that issue. The second issue is open it up within the EFCC. That it doesn't have to be an investigative officer. Certainly that will create problem even within the system. So if we have issues with this, it means someone will have to propose an amendment. Otherwise, we stick with what they presented, the committee presented. Senator Abdullah.
Mr. President, my amendment is in line with the position that our elder brother has suggested. Don't lock up an institution. Don't lock up an institution. Don't allow inbreeding. So my amendment is this. Should be a serving officer of the commission, not below the rank of deputy commander of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, or having attained a similar rank in related services recognized by the law.
No, you are going outside it.
I'm going outside, yes. This is my amendment. I'm going outside, allowing everybody within the institution and also outside. I'm proposing an amendment.
Let me guide you. No. You can vote against it. You can't just, I have to give you information.
Yeah, Mr. President, sitting as the chair, I don't know if I can propose the amendment or I need to second that amendment. I'm going to second this amendment with modification. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I rise to second the amendment as proposed by Senator. I rise to second the amendment as proposed by Senator Yahya Abdullahi. I so second. The modification I was looking at is just to restrict. Okay, I know what he says. I perfectly understand what he says. Yeah, he said no. The only addition he has put is not below the rank of anybody who is outside of the, which is the issue they have raised. But what I would look at is that. Okay. What he said was that be a serving member of the commission, not below the rank of deputy commander, not below the rank of deputy commander of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, or other related agencies. Yeah. Other agencies. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said. Bring the.
Those in favor that clause 2 as amended stands part of the bill, say aye. You didn't even vote. You, Adiola. So those those in favor that clause 2 as amended stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The nays have it. Your amendment, Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. The amendment is be a serving officer, remove the investigation of the of the commission, not below the rank of deputy commander of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. That's all.
Distinguished Senator Patrick Ayo Akin Elure, all of our.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support the amendment moved by the Deputy Whip. I so second, Mr. President, as moved by Deputy Whip of the Senate.
Those in favor of clause 2 as amended by the Deputy Chief Whip and seconded by distinguished Senator Ayo Patrick Akin Elure, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. You need a lot of glucose. The ayes have it. Okay. Yeah, only the investigator has been removed. Where clause 3. Clause 3, that is where the 2/3 is. Those in favor of clause 3, say aye. Is anybody seeking an amendment? But you didn't say anything. You say only one person say aye. If you don't want it, you shall amend it. Is anybody seeking an amendment? Amendment? No, not to long title. Clause 3. You want to amend it? Okay. Senator Adiola Olamileko.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. My amendment will be that, page 5, yeah, you're right, sir. I was looking at the first front page because it's equally there. So, page 5. Yes, sir. So that said, the office that provided that the executive chairman shall only be suspended or removed from the office subject to the approval of simple majority of the members of the Senate of the National Assembly. Simple majority. Simple majority.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to second the motion as ably moved by my dear friend Solomon Olamileko.
The president sitting as chairman, you say, if you, this assembly, this Senate, in the ICPC Act that was enacted and passed over here, made it 2/3 majority. This is a sister association. Is the same thing. So we are just bringing it that to be at par, since there are sister agencies. The reason is just, well, the Senate then, now. So we are saying, what we are saying is that the job is not to secure the tenure of the chairman to do job very well. You need to give him such a protection, in line with what you have done to ICPC. But if you say now that you're now moving that the same sister agencies, you are having the other 1/3 or another 1/3, so you can do so. You can do so. So if you want to change it from what it used to be with the sister agency, you are free. But what I say is that it's the same to put them on this at par. Yes.
This one was passed today, right?
No, it's a long time ago.
They will bring it back.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And distinguished colleagues, I think the interest generated on this bill is heartwarming, considering the effort that we put in. And I commend distinguished senators for the various contributions. As to the 2/3, I think I will plead with my distinguished sponsor that simple majority can serve the same purpose that we are thinking. Yes, because if the previous bills that were passed, or what we have as act now, we are taking some years back, in some hush-hush manner, we have given him more thought now to it, and I thank distinguished senators for their contributions. I don't have issues with that. Simple majority, I think, will serve the purpose. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, sorry, colleagues. What I was even looking at is, if you check the Constitution, approval of the National Assembly is just approval of the National Assembly. And if you check our rules, we know what approval means. So to my mind, even putting simple majority is even superfluous. We just say subject to approval of the Senate. Because when we come here, just the same way we approve confirmation, that's it. We shouldn't. Okay. Well, if that is it, but for me, distinguished colleagues, when you are approving somebody, whether we say by voice vote or this one, and the moment is simple. The presiding officer knows. And I think it is a prerogative. After all, when we come to approve, most of our approval, we know when they come into that. Why must we subject this? Because when you say simple majority, it means a process have to be put in place. Fine. If that is what we want, fine. But my thought is that when we say approved by the Senate, it does it.
Okay, I deliberately I gave the sponsor of the bill the opportunity to explain. He did his best. The chairman of the Anti-Corruption Committee is with the amendment. But there is an angle to the amendment which the Deputy Chief Whip was trying to raise. But I will put the question now because there was a motion on the floor. So those in favor, that is removing to third, are making a simple majority. I think that is the, yes. So those in favor that clause 3 as amended stands part of the bill, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 4. Sorry? Okay. Those in favor that the short title on page 6 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 6 also stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. We will have to amend the long title to reflect, yes. So, how do we amend it? But somebody would have to subject. Okay, you do it. You do it. You do that. Do it exactly the way. Okay, the Secretariat will do the consequential amendment. So, I'll. Sorry. Sorry.
Mr. The Senate revert to plenary for the chair to report progress.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate revert to plenary for chair to report progress. I so second.
Colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverts plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Act Amendment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as amended, Clause 1 as recommended, Clause 2 as amended, Clause 3 as amended. Short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as amended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Leader, third reading.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the bill be now read the third time. I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this bill be now read a third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2004 to subject the termination of the appointment of the chairman of the commission to the confirmation of the Senate of the National Assembly in order to guarantee the security of tenure and for other connected matters 2023, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act 2004 to subject the termination of the appointment of the chairman of the commission to the confirmation of the Senate of the National Assembly in order to guarantee the security of tenure and for other connected matters 2023, third reading taken. And this bill is passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts on the issuance of promissory note in respect of federal road projects executed by the Plateau and the Borno state governments. Plateau State, 6,001,769,470.99. Borno State, 3,084,769,393.63. Total, 9,686,538,864.62. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator O.J. Clifford to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the report of the committee.
Distinguished Senator Clifford Odia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Clifford Akimemana Odia, representing the good people of Edo Central Senatorial District. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive and conduct the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt on the reimbursement of the sum of 601,769,470 naira 99 kobo to Plateau State government and the sum of 3,084,769,393 naira 63 kobo to Borno State government through the issuance of promissory note in respect of the federal projects, road projects executed by the states. I so move.
I need a seconder. Yes, very distinguished Senator Geshambasi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gashambasi, Cross River South. I rise to second the motion moved by Senator Clifford Odia. I so second.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts on the reimbursement of the sum of 6,601,769,470 naira 99 kobo to Plateau State Government and the sum of 3,084,769,393 naira 63 kobo to Borno State Government through the issuance of promissory notes in respect of federal road projects executed by the states. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, you may lead the report, please. You may present the report now.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This report is in respect of the promissory note programs and board issuance as refund to Plateau and Borno State government for projects executed by the federal government. This Senate, at its sitting on Wednesday, 5th April 2023, considered the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, on the establishment of the Promissory Note Program and a bond issuance as refund to Borno and Plateau State government for the projects executed on behalf of the federal government, and refer same to the committee for further legislative action. Paragraph. The Promissory Note Program and bond issuance is a financial instrument to clear debts which the federal government is indebted to other government and non-governmental bodies in various sectors of the economy. Specifically, this promissory note and bond issuance is designed to make refunds to two states' governments for projects executed on behalf of the federal government in the formation states of the Federation. I don't know if Mr. President will permit me to go to observations and findings.
Please do.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Based on the interaction and review of the submissions by the affected states, the committee hereby makes the following observations and findings on Borno and Plateau states as follows. 1, that most of the federal roads mentioned were at a deplorable state before the intervention of the state government. 2, that a series of inspections, visits were carried out by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing on all the federal roads completed by the states and ascertained that the quality of work done have met the required standard. 3, that the state governments duly completed all the projects for which they are seeking for a refund. 4, that the state governments have paid all the contractors that executed the highway projects. 5, that the recommended amount due for reimbursement to Plateau State government is 6,601,769,470 naira 99 kobo. 6, that the recommended reimbursement amount to Borno State government as reviewed by the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, is 3,084,769,393 naira 63 kobo for execution of federal road projects by the Borno State government. That the Federal Bureau of Public Procurement has ascertained and certified that due process was followed accordingly. Recommendation. That the Senate do approve the Promissory Note Program and bond issuance to settle outstanding claims and liabilities of two state governments in the sum of 9,686,538,864 naira 62 kobo only. As reference to 1, Borno State, 3,084,769,393 naira 63 kobo, and Plateau State, 6,609,769,470 naira 99 kobo. Conclusion. The committee wishes to express its gratitude to the President and of the Senate, the leadership, and the entire Senate for the confidence reposed on the committee to carry out this assignment.
Thank you, Chairman. Any comments? Otherwise, we'll go to the recommendation. The recommendation on page 4 of the report, that the Senate do approve the promissory notes program and bond issuance to settle outstanding claims and liabilities of two states government in the sum of 9,686,538,864 naira 62 kobo only. Borno are refunds to Borno State 3,084,769,393 naira 63 kobo. Plateau State 6,601,769,393 1,470 naira 99 kobo, totaling 9,686,538,864 naira 62 kobo. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate, concurrence.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the 11th to the 17th order of the day are House bills for concurrence as listed in the order paper. You have all the bills, sir? We have the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2022 HB 702, 2, Broadcasting Practitioners Establishment Bill 2023 HB 1150, 3, National Gaming Bill 2023 HB 1288, 4, David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences Uburu Establishment Bill 2023 HB 2016, Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance Establishment Bill 2023 HB 242, 6, Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Repeal and the Reenactment Bill 2023 HB 858, and the 7th, the Federal College of Agriculture Gaydam Establishment Bill 2023 HB 1277. The Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2023 was read the first time on Wednesday, 14th December 2022. This bill seeks to provide for the establishment of Chartered Institute of Auctioneers to provide for the control of its membership and to promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria. Broadcasting Practitioners Establishment Bill 2023 HB 1150 was read the first time on Tuesday, 4th April 2023. This bill seeks for Society of Nigeria Broadcasters Act to regulate the profession and practice of broadcasting in Nigeria, set required minimum academic qualification, ethical standard for broadcasters, broadcast journalists, or broadcasting practitioners, and for other purposes connected herewith. National Gaming Bill 2023 HB 1288 was read the first time on Thursday, 2nd March 2023. This bill seeks to repeal the National Lottery Act number 6, 2017 as amended, and enact the National Gaming Act to regulate the operation and the business of gaming in Nigeria and enhance revenue generation for the government of the Federation to complement the funding gap of the Commission. David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences Uburu Establishment Bill 2023 HB 2016 was read the first time on Wednesday, 14th December 2022. This executive bill seeks to make provisions for the establishment of administration, and the management of the David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences Uburu for the advancement of tertiary learning, especially in medical sciences, and the promotion of scholarships in all fields of human endeavor. Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance Establishment Bill 2023 HB 242 was read the first time on Thursday, 2nd March 2023. The bill seeks to control unethical behavior and regulate the enforcement of the national ethics of Nigeria, namely discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, and patriotism, which will positively reposition Nigeria in the path of progress. Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, HB 858, was read the first time on Tuesday, 4th April 2023. This bill seeks to repeal the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act, Cap C9, LFN 2004, and provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments of Nigeria to regulate and control the professional practice in the areas of securities and investments business in Nigeria. Federal College of Agriculture Gaidam Establishment Bill 2023, HB 1277, was read the first time on Tuesday, 2nd May 2023. This bill seeks to amend the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act, Cap A12, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, as amended, to make provision for the establishment of Federal College of Agriculture Gaidam. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, these are straightforward and not controversial and have gone through the necessary legislative processes in the House of Representatives. I therefore urge you all to support the second reading of these bills as we refer them to the Committee of the Whole for close-by-close consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. You have done very well. Any comments? Those in favor that these bills be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, any the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Auctioneers to provide for the control of its membership and promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the coordinating and conduct of the practice of broadcasting profession in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the National Lottery No. 6, 2017 as amended and enact the National Gaming Bill to regulate the operation and business of gaming in Nigeria and enhance revenue generation for the government of the Federation to complement the funding gap of the Commission and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences, Uburu, Ebonyi State, and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance to control unethical behavior and enforce compliance with principles of national ethics and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act, Cap C9, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments of Nigeria to set standards of knowledge, ethical conduct and practice, train, certify, discipline its members, promote and advance the practice of securities and investments profession, and for related matters 2023, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act, Cap A12, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended, to make provision for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Gaidam, Yobe State, and for related matters 2023, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Auctioneers to provide for the control of its membership and promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to provide for the coordinating and conduct of the practice of broadcasting profession in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to repeal the National Lottery No. 6, 2007 and 17 as amended and enact the National Gaming Bill to regulate the operation and business of gaming in Nigeria and enhance revenue generation for the government of the Federation to complement the funding gap of the Commission and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to establish David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences, Uburu, Ebonyi State, and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to establish the Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance to control unethical behavior and enforce compliance with the principles of national ethics and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to repeal the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act, Cap C9, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments of Nigeria to set standards of knowledge, ethical conduct, and practice, train, certify, discipline its members, promote and advance the practice of securities and investments profession, and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to amend the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act, Cap A 12 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended to make provision for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Gaidam, Yobe State, and for related matters 2023, second reading taken, and this bill is also referred to the Committee of the Whole. Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
Distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider the 7 bills. I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider all these reports. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. With the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill. Those in favor that clause 1 to 10 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 11 to 21 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title on page 16 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedules 1, 2, and 3 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 24 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Next report. Ba wanda zai kashe ka. The second, former comrade. Broadcasting practitioners, the second report. Those in favor of the clause 1 to 10 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those were clause 11 to 22 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the interpretation on page 14 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title on page 15 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the schedules 1, 2, and 3 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum on page 23 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Next report. National Gaming Bill 2023. Those who are at clause 1 to 10 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those who are at clause 11 to 20 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those who are at clause 21 to 30 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those who are at clause 31 to 40 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 41 to 50, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 51 to 60, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 61 to 70, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at interpretation on page 37, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the short title on page 41, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at schedules on page 42 to 44, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the explanatory memorandum on page 46, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the long title on page 1, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Next report. David Umahi University. Those who are at clause 1 to 10, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 11 to 23, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the interpretation on page 18, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title on page 20, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the schedules 1, 2, and 3, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the explanatory memorandum on page 33, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the long title on page 1, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The last report. No, the second to the last. Agency for National Ethics and Values. Those who are at clause 1 to 10, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 11 to 18, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at interpretation on page 13, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the short title on page 14, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the schedule, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the explanatory memorandum on page 16, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the long title on page 1, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The last report. Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Those who are at clause 1 to 10, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 11 to 21, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the interpretation on page 23, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the short title on page 24, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the schedule on page 25, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the explanatory memorandum on page 26, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the long title on page 1, stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate plenary. You didn't include it here. Where is it? It's not here. Is it the one? Well, give me if you don't have. How many clauses? Okay. Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Those who are at clause 1 to 2, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the where's those who are at the short title, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at the explanatory memorandum, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate, explanatory plenary. Please stop disturbing the princess.
Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so move.
To revert.
The minority leader.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate revert to plenary for the church report.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Chief Whip, Senator Smart Ademi is making noise, please. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate and the Committee of the Whole considered the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 21 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules 1, 2, and 3 as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. The Senate and the Committee of the Whole also considered the Broadcasting Practitioners Exception Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 22 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the National Gaming Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 70 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this also a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the David Umahi University of Medical Sciences Uburu Amendment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 23 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this also a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? The Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance Establishment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 18 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers repealed and reenactment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 21 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedule as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this also a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Lastly, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the Federal College of Agriculture Gaydam Establishment Bill 2023 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, clause 1 to 2 as recommended, short title as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this also a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate, third reading.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the 7 bills be read the third time. I so move.
The minority.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that these bills be now read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate, this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Auctioneers to provide for the control of its membership and promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the coordinating and conduct of the practice of broadcasting profession in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the National Lottery number 6, 2017, as amended, and enact the National Gaming Bill to regulate the operation and business of gaming in Nigeria and enhance revenue generation for the government of the Federation to complement the funding gap of the Commission and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences, Uburu, Ebonyi State, and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance to control unethical behavior and enforce compliance with principles of the national ethics and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act, Cap C9, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments of Nigeria to set standards of knowledge, ethical conduct and practice, train, certify, discipline its members, promote and advance the practice of securities and investments profession, and for related matters 2023, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act, Cap A12, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended, to make provision for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Gedam, Yobe State, and for related matters 2023, third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to establish Chartered Institute of Auctioneers to provide for the control of its membership and promote the practice of auctioneers in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. A bill for an act to provide for the coordinating and conduct of the practice of broadcasting profession in Nigeria and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. A bill for an act to establish, to repeal a bill for an act to repeal the National Lottery number 6, 2017 as amended and enact the National Gaming Bill to regulate the operation and business of gaming in Nigeria and enhance revenue generation for the government of the Federation to complement the funding gap of the Commission and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. A bill for an act to establish David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences, Uburu, Ebonyi State, and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. A bill for an act to establish the Agency for National Ethics and Values Compliance to control unethical behavior and enforce compliance with the principles of national ethics and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. A bill for an act to repeal the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers Act, Cap C9, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments of Nigeria to set standards of knowledge, ethical conduct and practice, train, certify, discipline its members, promote and advance the practice of securities and investments profession, and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. A bill for an act to amend the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria Act, Cap A12, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 as amended, to make provision for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Gedam, Yobe State, and for related matters 2023, third reading taken, and this bill is also passed. Well, congratulations to all. Leader, you have no announcement? Huh? You are his day. All of a sudden you turn a stammerer. Okay. Distinguished colleagues, we have come to the end of today's session, and I think a day well spent. 3:30 now, it's time to close. And this Senate will be adjourned until 16th of May. That will be Tuesday next week, 16th of May, 2023 at 10 a.m. prompt. Thank you.